so it's trying to prepare us.
Ooh, fun.
Okay. All right, we are live. I'm going to give folks some time to join us. And then we can get started. Hi, Amy. Thanks for watching. All right, folks, if you're watching right now, make sure to share this on your timeline so other people can view it, and we'll get started in 1 minute. Hi, Barbara. I feel like an influencer, y'all. I am an influencer, a Supreme Court influencer.
I like that. That should be the new tag in your bio.
Yes. See, Anne agrees. I am a Supreme Court influencer. Well, with that confirmation, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey, y'all, my name is Courtney Thomas. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the Director of Communications at WREN, the Women's Rights and Empowerment Network. We are a nonpartisan nonprofit with a mission to build a movement to advance the health, economic well-being, and rights of women, girls, gender-expansive people, and their families. We are so thankful for our partner today, the National Women's Law Center, because we're here to talk about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. She received the nomination to the Supreme Court from President Joe Biden. And if confirmed, Judge Jackson would be the first Black woman to serve on the United States Supreme Court. So let's go ahead and get started. And Jenilyn, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm trying to take myself off video. I don't know if it's gonna work.
Or onto video, or?
Onto video? It says that you disabled my video. I don't know, if everyone can see my face, then I'm good.
Let's see, I don't think they can.
Alternatively, that headshot is me at one of my favorite restaurants about to dive face first into a table full of food.
Yes. Well, I made you a co-host. Can you try to put your video on now?
Hello. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jenilyn Soto. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the Director of Cross-Cutting Community Partnerships at the National Women's Law Center. A little bit about us. The National Women's Law Center fights for gender justice in the courts, in public policy, and in our society. We work across the issues that are central to the lives of women, girls, and gender-expansive folks. We use the law in all its forms to change culture and drive solutions to fight against gender inequity that shapes our society, and to break down the barriers that harm all of us, most especially women of color, LGBTQ folks, and low-income women and families. For nearly 50 years, we've been on the leading edge of every major legal and policy victory for women, girls, and gender-expansive folks. And to that effect, we have been leading the charge in ensuring that judicial and executive nominations include and affirm luminaries who will uphold equal justice under the law. And so that's why I'm here today to just help talk a little bit more about this historic moment of joy and a historic moment for the Senate to confirm a justice whose qualifications are only strengthened by the breadth of her experiences.
Excellent, excellent. Well, gentlemen, let's jump right into it. So, to level set, can you tell us how a Supreme Court justice is confirmed?
Yes, absolutely. So, if Courtney has not already received this link and dropping, and we'll be dropping it in the chat's comments, the boxes. Uh, we have this nifty infographic from one of our partners that talks about the full path. And so once there's a vacancy announced on the Supreme Court, usually created when a justice retires or sadly passes away, there is a selection process. So the administration will the White House in particular, will pull together a short list after reviewing the records of various legal luminaries and highly qualified jurists. They'll interview these candidates and then go look at that short list and go through additional deliberations. Then we'll go through the nomination. That's when the president will publicly nominate someone for the vacancy. So Supreme Court nominees traditionally have courtesy meetings with individual senators where senators can speak privately with the nominee. We saw that happening earlier this month, shortly after Judge Jackson's nomination was publicly announced. And then the nominees will complete a Senate Judiciary questionnaire, which summarizes their professional experience. And the questionnaire is then reviewed by the senators and is publicly available. So you've seen it, you might have heard it referenced during the hearings this past week with Judge Jackson. You've certainly seen some previous nominees waving them around with some black Sharpie. Those questionnaires are actually pretty substantive. Then we go through a hearing, and that is a hearing by the Senate Judiciary Committee, and it is an opportunity for the Senate Judiciary Committee members, those senators, to ask substantive questions of the nominee based on their questionnaire and their legal records. It's the job interview. It's where some people cry about how much they love beer. It's where some people gloss over the fact that they were a super spreader for a very dangerous airborne virus. And it's where other people, Judge Jackson, comport themselves with tremendous dignity and composure in the face of ridiculous attacks. So that's what this past week was. Monday, opening statements. Tuesday, Wednesday were questions by the senators, including South Carolina's Senator Lindsey Graham. And then yesterday was the final day of the hearing, and it was two panels of outside witnesses talking about Judge Jackson's brilliant, highly qualified record. If y'all saw what came out of the Washington Post, there was this really nifty infographic comparing Judge Jackson's qualifications against all of the other justices currently sitting on the Supreme Court. And without a doubt, she checked every single box. And some people barely had a box. Just saying. During the hearing, these questions go on the record. And so this is, these are questions that they say out loud, and these are also questions that are submitted in writing and that the nominee can then go back and enter a response for, since, everyone likes to have receipts, even though some people forget that they exist. Then we go through markup. Sorry, y'all. I know this is like really a lot, but I love this nerdy stuff and I'm trying to make it as fresh, bright, and cute as possible. Don't worry, the infographic is very colorful and you will have it soon. Then the markup, that's next week. I know it sounds like she's a piece of paper, but it's actually where the Senate Judiciary Committee will hold an executive business meeting and will vote her and report the nominee out to the floor. So recently, like the past two, other confirmations, they've been a little messy. You might recall, life has just been messy the past several years, so I get it if it got lost in the sauce. But back in the olden days, when it was just all cis-het white men, it would just sail on through. And then people were like, actually, our institutions can very much look like us. Just because you've been holding us out for many, many, many years, if not centuries, does not mean we should just take this lying down. If someone is bad, we're going to call them out on it. So, in recent years, the Senate Judiciary Committee has needed a little extra push from the rest of the Senate. And so instead of just a really quick markup, moving them to the floor, there's a really fun procedure called a discharge motion that they'll engage in, where the whole Senate gets to go in and be like, yo, report him out. Sometimes we like the whole Senate. Sometimes we don't like the whole Senate. It's just a thing that happens because gerrymandering. So then we go through this mess. Then there's something called a cloture vote. So we're hoping, right, it'll be really smooth sailing next week during markup. And then the week of the 4th is when we're expecting Judge Jackson's confirmation to hit the floor with a cloture vote and a final vote. Hopefully it'll be nice and sweet and tight. In fact, some good news. Senator Joe Manchin, who I know comes from a different state, but sometimes we're like, ooh, are you a good Joe or are you a not so good Joe today? He made an announcement today saying that he's going to vote in support of Judge Jackson's confirmation. And you know why? You know why he did that?
Why?
He listened to his people. He
Yes.
listened to his constituents, because West Virginians, they are loud. They are there. No matter how much he tries to silence them, no matter how much he tries to ignore them, they are there in his face and beat that drum hard for Judge Jackson. And so if West Virginia can do it, I have faith. I have so much faith that South Carolinians and everyone else can do the same.
Yes, South Carolina, I hope you're listening. That's a really good thing to hear. Well, I kind of want to ask, I need to ask about these hearings, gentlemen. I'm sure some of our viewers saw some of the more intense interactions that have been kind of picked up and replayed in the media. Is that normal? It just seems like a lot of the senators spent time talking about CRT, child pornography, basically anything but Judge Jackson's record. Like, what is that all about?
I mean, I think we know what it was about. I think a lot of us know what it was about. And I'm going to say it out loud. It was about several things. Let's not forget it's 2022 and it's a midterm election year. So a lot of folks were getting really loud, talking to their bases, talking to potential donors, making it political theater for their own personal benefit. And quite frankly, making a full-on mockery of this esteemed body. And by the esteemed body, I'm talking about the Supreme Court. Like, yes, it seems like this highfalutin, very far removed from our everyday lives thing. But the reason so many of us are here doing what we're doing right now, like watching a Facebook Live, being able to live our daily lives, is because of what the Supreme Court has done thus far, good and bad. And so that's one thing. Making a mockery of the integrity of the institution of the Supreme Court because they're trying to get reelected. They're trying to raise funds for themselves. And the second is, let's be very clear. It's because Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is a Black woman. An absolutely almost ridiculously well-qualified Black woman who has shown that she will apply equal justice under the law, and that frightens them. So, and you know, everyone likes a good media hit. They have some senators, despite the fact that they have voted several times before
For
to
her.
confirm
Yes.
Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, including in her most recent position on the circuit court, just like to hear themselves making news waves.
Sounds like it. This confirmation process has been something that has been both uplifting because of the historic nature of it, but also revelatory for some, and just it's like a doubling down of what we already knew for the rest of us, because I know so many Black women, just like Judge Jackson, who experience this kind of vitriol in predominantly white spaces. So I absolutely empathize with her. But I do want to talk a little bit about the role we all as individuals have to play, but specifically South Carolinians. So you talked a little bit earlier about West Virginians and the way they've used their voices and then influenced their senators. So this, as you said, the stakes are high because the Supreme Court does have a really high influence on our everyday lives. So with that in mind, what can South Carolinians do to influence our senators, even the ones who are very vocal in the hearing room?
So let's just go ahead and name him. The Honorable Lindsey Graham,
yes,
voted for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson 3 times before. Most recently last year for her current seat on the DC circuit. He was fine with her record. He supported her record. He listened to the American Bar Association. He listened to virtually the same panel of witnesses who were all speaking in glowing terms about Judge Jackson as a jurist. But yeah, he said some things where I was like, ooh, bless him. That doesn't mean though that he cannot be successfully shamed and dragged. Yes, I said that. Shamed and dragged for his foolishness. There is a good set of opportunities for South Carolinians to beat that drum and beat it loud. It's about volume. It's about not giving up your hope. It's about leaning into that joy. Or if you're like me, leaning into the rage. I rage smile through most of life. Because you just have to sometimes, right? Like Rihanna said, what else am I gonna do? Sit in bed and cry? No.
That's right. That's right.
I do have that video clip playing on a loop most days in my mind.
Yes.
So I know that Ren and several other partners have created really, really simple click to call, click to email opportunities, click to text. I mean, let us clog up Senator Scott and Senator Graham's inboxes, all of them, with blessed joy and calls for the swift confirmation of Judge Jackson to the Supreme Court. I think it's possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if folks are just joining us, we are speaking with Jenilyn Soto from the National Women's Law Center to talk about confirming Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. And you just heard a call to action to email both Senators Graham and Scott. So I will also quote the great Rihanna. Rihanna said, tell your friends to pull up. And that is absolutely right. So I need everyone watching this to share this video, but also share this action. So to send an email to Senators Graham and Scott, all you have to do is text Jackson, Jackson, to 52886. And we'll put this down in the comments below so you can see it after we're done with this live. But again, text Jackson, Jackson, to 52886 to email our senators. It can be done, and we can make this happen. We can make history, y'all. So with that, Jenna, is there anything else you want to leave folks with? Any more Rihanna quotes? Rihanna, excuse me.
Oh, I'm so sorry to have contributed to the mispronunciation of Madame Rihanna's name. That is not the quote I want to end on. I just want to say that we have an opportunity to make history, not just because Judge Jackson will bring such a panoply of gender and racial diversity and experiences and excellence to the Supreme Court, but just think about the next 20 to 30 years with her as one of the leading jurists in the country, helping to codify truly equal justice under the law. And I know a lot of us are more about equity, and we're really interrogating what equality means and has meant to this country. But there's that eternal optimist and nerd in me that knows once we've got it codified, then we can go and bring all of them receipts. Again, I'm also someone who loves to keep receipts. We can do so much. I mean, I'm here today because of the Supreme Court. So I know that my children and my children's children will have brighter futures because we've got someone like Judge Jackson. And also, can I just shout out the short list that President Biden had created? Because I know the Honorable Childs was also on that list. She might not have been in this round, but the fact that she is making such important decisions where she is now, that will also be a part of this legacy. So I'm in teary just talking about it, but that's because I'm a nerd.
We love it. We're all nerds here. Well, thank you, Jenna. Again, South Carolinians, this is our opportunity to speak out in support of Judge Jackson's confirmation. So one more time for the road, text Jackson, Jackson, to 52886. All right, y'all, let's get to work. Thank you, Jenna.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.